shot that he became famous for, especially later on in his career, that lob from the front of the court, from either side. He did it from the front, he did it from the back, he did it from the middle. But he became the master of this shot and was able to turn a defensive situation into an attacking situation pretty quick, and he used it as an attacking weapon. So one thing I want to start with is actually I want to go right to the end of what happens with the lob. Let's have a look at the follow through. It's something I've been coaching quite a lot recently is, when you're going into that front corner and under that little bit of pressure, there's actually not a huge amount of follow through. I think a lot of people tend to think that the lob has to have a big follow through. But I like to think about it that actually if you get a good bit of your wrist going and you flick and get that ball up with some elevation, that's what does the damage. And you see how that ball rises over his opponent and then drops like a stone into the back corner, forcing a backwall boast from his opponents. So I think the first myth I'd like to dispel is that follow through. I often see people talking about you need to have a big extended follow through in the front corner. So another thing I want to look at is he goes open stance here because he's under a little bit of pressure. Racket really low. Everything's actually pointing towards the ball. If you look at his foot, his racket head, the top of his racket, his shoulder, everything's looking at the ball. So it's really efficient, really straight, really efficient. Just opens his wrist there at that last minute. So he just gets a little bit of engagement in the wrist. And now that ball's at a nice 45-degree angle in front of him. And look at that little turn. He just paddles that ball up. And look at the angle the ball goes off his racket strings. It's going really steep. Hits the front wall at about that point, I think. Hits the front wall. And then look, it lifts another meter, meter and a half, even 2 meters to be able to get in and over the opponent there. So that's what I think is really magic about this is the way he goes. And he just is able to paddle, pretty much paddles that ball up and over, not much follow through, really using the wrist, really engaging it. And I think if players can practice this and hone the skill a little bit better, I think their lobs can be a lot more effective in the front corner. So one more time for good measure, everything nice and open, everything short and efficient, low racket head, opens the wrist there for a second, gets the bottom of the ball with an open racket face, not much of a follow through, paddles that wrist. One final little point, look at that back foot slide. He absorbs that lunge by that back foot slide, pops the ball up and high, and then lets the height do the damage, forcing his opponent to hit the shot off the back wall.